Mr. Coxman?
What can I do for you?
It's about your son.
Kyle's dead. Tell me what happened.
He got mixed up with some drug dealer. Viking. He likes hurting people. One guy could disappear. Two, who wants me dead?
Jesus don't fear the reaper, nor do the wind, the sun, or the rain.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Kehoe and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Do You Even Movie? I'm your host, Henrique Kehoe, here with Double D, David Denoyer.
Greetings.
My co-host and occasional friend.
Yeah, occasional.
And tonight we have quite a film.
Yes.
As we continue a very cold-blooded January. A film mostly, in a way, about snow removal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I don't know how much you've been shoveling, but I've been shoveling quite a bit.
Good amount, yes.
Well, you didn't get as bad that second storm.
No, we not as bad here, yeah, but we still got about like 4 inches, I think.
The second storm?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we didn't get more than 1.5 inches on the second storm.
Oh, yeah, we got like, I think like 2 or 3, 3 inches, I want to say. Because, yeah, it was light, so it was getting dusted out of the way, but like it's still stacked on top of outside the house, and so it was still pretty significant.
Wow, yeah, we only got about 1.5 hours of it.
Oh, yeah.
It was all southerly.
No, so for us, it started at, I think like 3 p.m., and then it didn't stop until like 11 that night.
Oh, yeah, Friday was not like that.
Yeah, Friday was like that for us. Because I was at the hangar for the movie.
I'm shocked you guys got it as bad as Cincinnati then.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, like I said, the snow was lighter than round one because it was way more powdery and not like, it didn't collect on the road as much, but it collected on the snow outside the house. That's how I know.
Okay. Well, then there you go. So, Cold Pursuit from 2019.
Yes, sir. Which is technically a remake of a 2014 Norwegian film called An Order of Disappearance, which does play heavily into this film in regards to the style and everything of that original film, which you haven't seen An Order of Disappearance yet, have you?
No, I've not.
I'm going to have to show it to you. I mean, it's, again, the same movie, but there's a lot of cool things between both movies that they had to kind of separate themselves.
Well, sure. I mean, one took place in Norway.
Yeah,
and the other took place in Colorado.
Denver, Colorado, yes.
So outside of
Kehoe,
Denver, yeah. So, but yeah, and of course it stars the legendary Liam Neeson.
Yes, it does.
The man who, in many ways, had a similar career trajectory to, although very, very different to, oh gosh, what's his name? Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
In that he was one thing. Although much more successful, Neeson was very successful.
Yeah, 100%.
But he completely changed genres and type in his older age.
Yeah.
As to where Leslie Nielsen was kind of around, he was doing cool stuff, but he became the biggest star in the world once they put him in comedies.
And it's ironic too because Neeson's going to fill Neeson's going to feel Neeson. Oh my God, I can't talk. Neeson is going to fill Nielsen's shoes because he's going to be the new Frank Drebin.
That's not hard to say. Here, try this. Mommy makes me mash my M&Ms. Yum, yum.
Mommy makes me mash my M&Ms. Yum, yum.
Okay, that's pretty good. About she sells seashells down by the seashore.
She sells seashells by the seashore.
Yeah, you cut a couple out, but good enough. Good enough. That is I am cautiously looking forward
They're
to
keeping
the concept
most
of that.
The details hush hush on that, which I'm very curious as well. But like, Neeson has such a delivery with comedy, especially like his appearance in Ted 2 is still one of my all-time favorites.
Sure.
And then he was also the villain in A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured that the big draw was when they put him in that comedy sketch with Ricky Gervais.
Oh yeah,
where he was supposed to do comedy, but he wasn't
improv
at all. Yeah, he was doing improv comedy, and he wasn't funny at all.
Yeah, because Gervais, what is it? He's like, it's like, oh, you again. He's like, what are you talking about? This is my first time here.
Oh well, that's just bad improv. The rule of improv is you're supposed to do yes and. You're not supposed to. When somebody says welcome to my house, you're not supposed to go, what are you talking about? We're in a grocery store. But the fact that he'd be like, so what brings you to the doctor's office? I have AIDS. Yeah, it's just the idea that he could not crack a joke made him really funny, and that would translate very well into Frank Drebin.
Oh yeah,
the character that that Leslie Nielsen made famous.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you ready to get into this?
I say, why not?
All right, so we're talking about Cold Pursuit from 2019, 1 hour and 59 minutes, rated R for strong violence, drug material, some language, including sexual references.
No, I think you say some language, including English.
IMDb synopsis of the film says a grieving snowplow driver seeks out revenge against the drug dealers who killed his son.
I mean, that's the meat and potatoes.
Yeah. My synopsis: when his son is murdered by a ruthless drug lord, local snowplow driver Nels Coxman starts killing the men involved, working his way up the chain of command.
That's good too. A little wordy. And you risk losing people by sharing that his last name is Coxman so early on.
Yeah. Dixman is I think it's Dixman is his name in Order of Disappearance, I want to say. Let me double check real quick. I want to say it's Dixman. Yep, Nils Dickman. Which
I guess is probably a somewhat common or at least a normal last name, as to where you don't run into a lot of Coxmen.
You don't. You do not.
No.
Would you like to hear the taglines for this film?
I'm very curious. I mean, I lived through this release. It was 2019. We saw it in the theater.
Yes, we did.
But all I remember from the advertisements was, Liam Neeson is driving a snowplow into some motherfuckers.
Do you remember that I was laughing at Daddy's Home 2 because they basically gave us Cold Pursuit in that movie before Cold Pursuit had come out?
Yeah, they basically made a joke that he was going to play a snowplow driver that beats people up.
And then he did.
Although in this one, they didn't quite. This movie was very similar to The Gray in that there is a good deal of action, and Neeson is doing a lot of action-y stuff, but it's not, of that, like, constant shootout, constant fighting of, like, Taken, which was fucking 15 years ago. I mean, Neeson's up there. Yeah,
when I get to his filmography, I'll read you his latest synopsis for his last action movie. Because this was actually supposed to be it.
I think that, if I remember correctly, that was a misunderstanding of something he said in an interview, though.
Regardless, it's still in the IMDb trivia.
I just mean, he didn't say, like, I'm not going to do it anymore. I think he said something along the lines of, I'm going to wrap it up, like, eventually. Yeah. And people took it as, like, this is going to be it.
The last one, yeah. So, taglines include, the perfect revenge is all in the execution.
That's not bad. Oh, actually, that's really good.
Yeah.
Because that's a good play on words.
Meet Nels Coxman, Citizen of the Year.
I don't think anybody would know what he meant.
Revenge is best served cold.
Well, see, they should have just put above the title, Revenge is a dish best served cold pursuit. That's what they should have done. Where's
Solid.
My bag of money?
Disappearances can be deceiving.
I mean, that's kind of clever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clever because appearances can be deceiving, disappearances can be deceiving. That one's kind of, I don't hate that one.
Yeah. Cold Pursuit is currently available on MovieSphere and available to rent or buy on Fandango or Prime, wherever you get your videos from. It also has a great Blu-ray and 4K out right now that you can pick up pretty cheap. I want to say like 15 to 20, depending on which one you go with.
Yeah, and the 4K, gorgeous.
Very good. Director on the film is Hans Petter Moland. He gets his start in 1995 with Zero Kelvin, Aberdeen in 2000, Folkfestbor, Akina in 2002. Yes, I'm going to be saying names that I probably should not be pronouncing. The Beautiful Country in 2004, Gymnasier Penderson in 2006, A Somewhat Gentle Man in 2010, When Bubbles Burst in 2012. He also directs An Order of Disappearance in 2014.
So this is straight up the same director.
Same
so we
director.
got a Funny Games kind of situation going.
We absolutely do, yeah. 2014, Order of Disappearance, Department Q, A Conspiracy of Faith in 2016, Cold Pursuit in 2019, Out Stealing Horses in 2019, and he's actually going to be directing Neeson's last one, Absolution, in 2024.
Oh, okay.
Which, I mean, that's, last year, so I don't know if that movie's out yet or not. Now I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, if it came out, it either...
Well,
I can't imagine it would get dumped.
He had Retribution, which was the latest one with him and the car bomb and everything.
Right.
Absolution, I'm checking right now. It has a 5.2. Let's see. It says his name in the movie's Thug. When aging gangster attempts to reconnect with his children and rectify the mistakes in his past, but the criminal underworld won't loosen their grip willingly.
I watched that.
Okay.
No, I saw that. Yeah, I rented it.
Yeah, it's on Prime Video right now. So
yeah.
The only place.
Yeah, my buddy Jeff, our buddy Jeff, he told me I should watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, that description is exactly accurate. He's an aging former criminal and he's trying to kind of make right.
So he literally has no name in the movie?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's crazy. But yeah, that's going to be supposedly his last action is this one.
Is Absolution?
Mm-hmm. That's what from what I'm seeing on report wise, that's what they're saying at least.
It could be.
So writer on the film is Frank Baldwin. He does Cold Pursuit screenplay in 2019, an episode of Your Honor in 2021, Big George Foreman in 2023, and 61st Street in 2023 as well.
I'm glad he stuck to mostly, lighthearted comedy, especially with Your Honor.
Your Honor. Curious what episode he did. Writer on the film as well is Kim Phupps Aikson. He gets his start in 1997 with Hannibal and Jerry. Anthony Hopkins and Jerry Seinfeld cross.
Oh, yeah. Jerry.
The One and Only in 99, Miracle in 2000, Minor Mishaps in 2002.
Oh.
He also does Okay in 2002, Old New Borrowed and Blue in 2003, In Your Hands, Aftermath, Store Planner, Accused, A Soap in 2006, Pure Hearts, Little Soldier, A Somewhat Gentle Man in 2010, Perfect Sense, Room 304 in 2011, Caretaker's Tale in 2012. He does the writing on An Order of Disappearance in 2014, Someone You Love in 2014, Feed the Beast, I Am William, Becoming Astrid in 2018, Cold Pursuit in 2019, Cry Wolf in 2020, The Shift, and Huss It in 2003.
So he had written a prior film that Neeson was in. You said, no, I think I got confused. He had written for the director of Cold Pursuit before.
He technically wrote on In Order of Disappearance and then got a writing credit on Cold Pursuit as well.
Okay, gotcha.
Cinematographer on the film is Philip Ramey Augard. He gets his start in 1983 with Open Future, goes on to shoot Farewell Illusions in 85, The Dream Castle in 86, Sweetwater in 88, Death at Oslo Center in 1990, The Polar Bear King in 91, Telegraphist, Zero Kelvin, Hotel Oslo, The Glassblower's Children, Bloody Angels in 98, Johnny Vang, Beast of Beauty in 2003, The Crossing, Irene Huss in 2007, Wallander in 2009, A Somewhat Gentle Man in 2010, I Travel Alone 2011, When Bubbles Burst, Chasing the Wind, In Order of Disappearance in 2014, Welcome to Norway in 2016, Gilbert's Grim Revenge in 2016, Haunted in 2017, shoots Cold Pursuit in 2019, and Beforeigners in 2019, as well as Absolution in 2024.
Okay.
So he shot the original and the remake.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of people came back and just did it in the U.S.
Cast on the film includes Liam Neeson, who plays Nels Coxman in the film. He gets a start in 76 with Pilgrim's Progress, Excalibur, Crawl, The Bounty, The Mission, Miami Vice in 86, Prayer for the Dying, Suspect, The Deadpool, High Spirits, Next of Kin, future episode, in 1989, Darkman in 1990, Under Suspicion, Shining Through, Husbands and Wives, Leap of Faith, Schindler's List in 93, Rob Roy in 95, Michael Collins, Les Miserables, Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace in 99, The Haunting remake in 99, Touched by an Angel in 2000, K-19 The Widowmaker in 2002, Gangs of New York, Love Actually, Kenzie, Kingdom of Heaven in 2005, Batman Begins 2005, Chronicles of Narnia in 2005, then he does Taken in 2008, he's a voice in Ponyo in 2008, Chloe in 2009.
I love that movie. I think it's highly underrated.
Clash of the Titans in 2010, The A-Team, The Next 3 Days, Unknown in 2011, The Gray in 2011, Wrath of the Titans in 2012, Battleship, Dark Knight Rises, Taken 2, Anchorman, Nonstop, Lego Movie, Million Ways to Die in the West in 2014, Walk Amongst the Tombstones in 2014, Taken 3, Run All Night, Entourage, Ted 2, Monster Calls, Silence, Mark Felt, The Man Who Brought Down the White House, Widows in 2018, Cold Pursuit in 2019, Brave New World, The Honest Thief, The Marksman, Blacklight, Memory, Marlowe, Retribution, and Absolution in 2024.
I mean, he's definitely kept busy.
He definitely has. Tom Bateman, who plays Trevor Viking Calcote in the film, he gets a start in 2011 on Much Ado About Nothing, The Tunnel in 2013, Da Vinci's Dreams in 2014, The Honorable Woman in 2014, Creditors in 2015, Jekyll and Hyde, Exposure, Cold Feet in 2016, B&B in 2017, Snatched, Murder on the Orient Express, High-Low Joe in 2017, Beecham House, Into the Dark, The Body.
Oh, yeah, he was in that one.
Yes, he was. The Vanity Fair in 2018, Cold Pursuit 2019, Behind Her Blue Eyes in 2021, Death on the Nile, 13 Lives, Funny Woman in 2022, Kid Snow in 24, and most recently is on the Peacock series based on a true story right now.
I do remember him in The Body because he has just the most naturally punchable face.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, really plays well with the character in this film.
Yeah, no, absolutely does. Emmy Rossum, also on the cast, who plays Kim Dash in the film. Officer Kim Dash gets her start in 1997 on Law & Order, As the World Turns in 98, Grace and Gloria, Snoops, It Had to Be You in 2000, The Audrey Hepburn Story in 2000, Happy Now, The Practice in 2001, NOLA, Mystic River in 2003, Day After Tomorrow, Phantom of the Opera in 2004, Poseidon in 2006, Dragon Ball Evolution in 2009, Dare in 2009, and then nails Shameless in 2011, which she was on for, I want to say, 8 seasons?
Almost the entire show.
Series, yeah, which missed her on the last season or last 2, I can't remember which. Beautiful Creatures in 2013, Before I Disappear, Comet, A Futile and Stupid Gesture in 2018, Cold Pursuit in 2019, Mr. Robot, Angeline, and The Crowded Room most recently in 2023.
Yeah.
So what was your first time watching Cold Pursuit?
Well, you know, being that it was in the before time of 2019.
Yep.
Saw it in the theater.
Yes, we did.
And, I mean, that was just a fun time.
Yeah, I mean, we were going to that no matter what, because it was a Liam Neeson action movie, and we were not fools to miss those in theaters. And I had previously seen An Order of Disappearance. I'd seen it before, but I had no idea that Cold Pursuit was a remake until I'm sitting in the theater, and about 10 minutes in, I'm just like, that's a lot of beats the same thing as, and then when the black text or the black screen popped up with the white text.
Yeah, I guess they're epitaphs.
Yeah, epitaphs. Yeah, and that's when I realized it was a remake. So I mean, it was an absolute blast in theaters. It made me want to go back and watch An Order of Disappearance again. But I've probably seen Cold Pursuit more now than I have of the original movie.
Well, I don't blame you. I try to keep my exposure to Norwegians to a relative minimum.
You still haven't watched Speak No Evil yet, have you?
Is that Norwegian?
I wonder if it's Norwegian or shit. Now I'm curious. Just more so thinking of it because it's original, of a horror film. Talk amongst yourselves, just checking something real quick. Let's see. That is...
I thought it was Dutch.
Is it Dutch?
So I thought, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's Dutch, Danish.
Ah, yes, a good Danish.
But yeah, no, I genuinely just love revisiting this movie, and especially during wintertime, it feels like a nice fuzzy warm blanket, even though it's nothing but snow and cold.
Well, I mean, it's 2 hours, and I've not sat and watched it with 100% attention until since the original release.
Yeah.
But I've watched it a couple of times. Like, it'll be available somewhere, and I'll put it on, do some work or something. It's definitely got those kinds of vibes.
Yeah.
That you could just kind of put it on whenever.
Yeah, I just remember being amazed by how the story unfolds, because like with Neeson at this point, he'd been kind of towards the end of the action movies, and this was one that I didn't expect in regards to the way that it played out with the action. It's not a you don't know who you're fucking with, in the sense that like John Wick and all that.
Yeah, he doesn't. They never had like a moment where like he's putting on his jacket and you see like a gigantic like that would have been like a cartel insignia or something. Like, oh, I was the only Irish cartel hitman.
Nothing will be as good as when that guy takes off his shirt in The Experiment.
Oh, that's one of my favorite moments.
So good.
I love that actor. I can't think of his name. Do you remember his name?
I can picture him. Damn it. Clifton Collins Jr.
I love him because he is, from what I understand, he's Latino.
Yeah.
But I mean, he could play friggin' anything. I bought him. I totally bought him 100% as a neo-Nazi in The Experiment, which is funny because that was, I think, shortly before he started getting more typed as a Latino in movies.
He also took over as the third Boondock Saint in the sequel.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of the first one, so I did not check out the second.
I didn't know you'd seen the first one.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because I
You
thought,
might have shown it to me, dude.
I have
I mean,
not.
like a really long time ago.
Oh man, if I did, I don't remember because I was talking about that with Jeff or Keith recently because Keith, me, Keith, and Matt watched it on a watch party recently, and I was
No,
saying
we
I
didn't
know if
watch
you'd
it
seen
together. I'm remembering it now, but
Okay.
I didn't hate it. It's just it was built up very big.
Oh yeah, I mean it was very well loved and then therefore very pushed up to the extreme of the substance almost, I would say, in the hype.
Well, it had long-term hype. I mean, it was out on video for a decade by the time I'd seen it, I think.
I think it got re-hyped because the unrated edition came out finally because for a while it was only that R-rated cut.
I mean, it could be. They were selling stuff at Hot Topic about that movie and stuff for years.
I bought a t-shirt from Hot Topic for Boondock Saints.
We're all aware you bought a t-shirt at Hot Topic, David.
What's that supposed to mean?
You know exactly what it means.
So, are you ready to get into the film?
Why the hell not?
All right. So, we open with a quote from Oscar Wilde that says, some cause happiness wherever they go. And that's when we see a snow being pushed down a road by a plow. We're in the mountains of Colorado at this point. We cut into the night as we meet Nels Coxman, who is the snowplow man of Kehoe, Colorado. And we see him finish up with his shift as he returns home with his son, Kyle. He greets his wife, Grace, as Kyle asks to borrow her car to go into town for work. Nels and Grace sit down to dinner as they discuss his speech because Nels is being presented with the Citizen of the Year award tonight.
Well, and why not? He clears the damn roads.
Yeah. So the ceremony is tonight. We see the two getting ready for the event as Nels stands outside looking down at Kehoe. We cut to the ceremony where Nels is presented with the award, and he states how honored he is to receive the award, but if he had his choice, he would have given it to somebody else who would have done more, as he's just a guy who keeps a strip of civilization open for people through the wilderness. He adds that he tries to not think about the roads not taken, but feels lucky as he picked a good road and stayed on it.
I like that at the beginning he's all like, I don't want to talk. And then he says some like really astute and interesting things.
Yeah.
Which I think was kind of to maybe make it clear that he's not quite as stoic as he comes across.
Yeah.
And of course would be worth mentioning his wife played by the wonderful Laura Dern.
Yes. And Laura Dern, also, when we meet her, is seen smoking a joint in her house as she's making dinner, which I caught that for the first time tonight because it goes back to the whole speech of Emmy Rossum and her partner talking about how it's a ski town. Everybody smokes weed. Everybody comes for sex.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had not picked up that she was smoking before.
Oh.
I missed that, apparently.
You thought it was just like a toothpick?
I thought it was a cigarette.
Caught on fire?
No, I thought it was a cigarette. I didn't know it was a joint.
they don't strike me as cigarette smoking types.
So we cut to the Kehoe airport where we find Kyle working at his job as a baggage handler. His shift ends and he goes inside the locker room. He's getting ready to leave, but he's ambushed by two men with guns. They take him out at gunpoint, put a hood on his head, and he gets thrown into a van where we see his friend Dante, who is his hands are tied to the top of the car, and he calls to him, and that's when we see that the men shoot Kyle up with heroin. His friend, while they're driving down the road, gets free of his binds. He jumps out of the car as the car is speeding down the road, and that's when they stop the car. They get out, start going after him and shooting, but Dante gets away. So we cut to a sign outside stating Colorado's 3.5 miles away. We meet Trevor Viking Cowcoat, who is getting his day started. His son Ryan, however, doesn't want to go to school because he's dealing with a bully. And that's when Trevor tells him that he gave him Lord of the Flies, and that book is everything he needs to know on how to deal with this, and he bet he hasn't even started it yet.
Oh, he doesn't say it's everything you need to know about this. He says every question you have in life is answered in that book.
Yeah.
Which is delightfully telling
of his character.
If I were him and I had a son, I would just slide him a VHS copy of Playing Dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
And say every answer to life's questions you need right in this film.
I mean, it is in a similar vein of Home Alone.
Exactly. In the tradition of Gilligan's Island, Lord of the Flies.
So, meanwhile, we see two men now in town who had Kyle before. They removed Kyle's dead body from the car. They're kind of weekend at Bernie's. As they're like trying to go through town and basically talk like
you mean in that it was very funny.
No, not at all.
No. I mean, yeah, they're puppeting his dead body.
And they're
trying
like, you had a big night
lots of drink,
night.
pal. They set him down. They even sit with him for a minute and like talk. And they go, all right, we'll catch you later. They put sunglasses on him, but he's dead.
He's dead, and his body goes down as they walk away, revealing that he is dead to the public. And that's when we see text stating Kyle Coxman as basically the signifier that he's died.
What they do is they put up the name.
Yeah.
If they have an alias, they put that up too.
Yep.
And then they put the religious symbol that represents them. So most of the time you'll see crosses.
Yeah.
But with the very occasional Sanskrit or Star of David.
Yeah.
Or my favorite is Viking gets a peace sign.
It's a peace sign.
Because one of my favorite, and we'll get to it in a second, but one of my favorite things is he is a hippie villain.
Yeah.
He is an absolute hippie villain.
Yeah, I don't think he ever smokes and or drinks on camera at all.
No, because I don't think his character would do that. I mean, his character is like, there's a great scene later on when all the crooks are all like standing around while they're trying to figure out what's going to happen next, and they all have green juices.
Yeah.
Which I think is hilarious because it's like, of course you're drinking them because the boss will kill you.
Yep. That sounds about right. So the next day, Nels finishes his day up. He returns home to find Grace, who is out in the snow in a bathrobe, and he knows something's wrong. We see them drive to town as the coroner shows them Kyle's body. But for a second here, when it comes to the display of Kyle's corpse, they have the coroner for about 30 seconds, I counted.
Yeah, like a legitimately long feeling period.
Stepping on this crank as they raise the body
to
up.
lift him up, yeah.
And like it goes, like I said, it goes for about 30 seconds.
Did you notice the note on the freezer?
No, what did it say?
Oh, there's just a note, like a simple handwritten note that just says, "Bodies go in, head out."
My God.
Which I thought was very funny.
That
it was
is
just
funny.
Just a simple note like that somebody was like, "Look, I'm just going to put this here. It's happening too much the other way."
My God. So that's when the detective informs them that Kyle died of a heroin overdose before walking over, and Nels is quick to state that Kyle wasn't a druggie. And the detective's like, yeah, that's what all the parents say, and that he's also going to be turning the case over to Vice and Narcotics because Nels asked, well, what's going to happen next? And he's like, well, at this point, it's a case for Vice and Narcotics, so our hands are pretty much washed of this. So Grace and Nels sit out in the parking lot as she states that they didn't even know their own son, and Nels says again that Kyle wasn't a druggie, causing her to hit him.
Yeah, well, and these guys, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
The reason they propped him up in that chair is to make it look like he fell asleep.
Yeah.
And then OD'd, which is, especially in a city like Denver, in a bigger city, even a city like Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah.
You have people being found, unconscious in their cars and they have to get shot up with Narcan. But it's a very clever way to kind of just kill all suspicion.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So later that night, Nels is back on the road with his plow. He gets to the garage, and we see him take out a bottle of liquor and his rifle, loading it and getting ready to take his own life as he pulls up a bucket, sits on it, and begins to put the barrel in his mouth, unaware that Kyle's friend Dante is hiding in the garage, bloodied up and bruised.
And this is interesting. It's almost like they saw him do that in the Gray. They were like, you're really good at almost killing yourself, but then not. So let's do it again.
Yeah. So Dante calls to Nels as he removes the barrel from his mouth, and Dante apologizes, stating he's sorry. He wasn't supposed to end like this. Kyle didn't even know anything that was going on with the deal, and Nels questioned, what deal, what people, what does he mean? Taking Dante by the throat, and that's when Dante gives the name Speedo. We see Nels head into town and enter a club, so he's in Denver at this point, and Nels spots Speedo, from as we saw from Kyle's abduction, and he follows him to an elevator, asking him if he is Speedo, which Speedo does confirm.
Yeah, good on him being a straight shooter.
Yeah, so that's when Nels tells him, Dante says hello, but Speedo's like, I don't know any Dante, and Nels calls him on it. He's like, yeah, you do. And he's like, you also knew my son Kyle. And Speedo goes, Kyle, yeah, I know. No, I don't know Kyle. And, I know a lot of Kyles, but I don't know your Kyle. And he's like, hey, man, this is where you get off at. They reach the elevator top, and that's when Nels asks him to tell him what happened. But Speedo shows him a pistol, telling him to go. Nels then unleashes on the guy, blooding him up with his fist and dragging him to the van unconscious.
Yeah, and this is where the movie pretty much just revs up and goes.
So in the van, Nels asks Speedo again, and Speedo states he was just taking orders, getting another name, Limbo, this time. Nels finds a picture of Limbo from his contact on Speedo's phone, and Speedo confirms that it's him before Nels reaches down and just strangles him to death.
Yeah, it just dutifully is the best word I could think to describe it.
And that's when the text pops up that Steve Milner, Speedo, confirming that he is dead.
Yes. The epitaph thing is a really great touch.
I got
really
all of them except for the final one with all those names because I couldn't write fast enough or take a picture.
Harsh.
I'm sorry. So Nels leaves Denver with Speedo's body as we watch him roll the body up in chicken wire before throwing him over a large waterfall to the icy waters below. Nels then returns home to find Grace, and she remains silent, and he's like, weren't you going to ask me where I was? And she just says nothing. So the next morning, we see Viking informed of Speedo's disappearance. In the car, Ryan asks who's Speedo, and Viking is quick to remind him that they don't speak of business, especially his business, even tossing out a treat that he found in Ryan's lunchbox. And that's when we kind of get more glimpse into Viking, that he is very belief in gut health and does not like sugars or anything along those lines.
No refined sugars, none of that stuff.
Yeah. So that is when we cut into the town of Kehoe as we meet Officer Kim Dash and her partner, John Gipsky. And he tells her about Nels as Nels drives past them. And she is basically talking about, they're talking about marijuana legalization when they start in the car, right? About how he wants to tax it and everything. And she's like, yeah, I don't believe that. Even to the point where Dash is getting ready to go out and bust some teens. And that's when Gypsy has to tell her, like, hey, like, this is a ski town. You might not be familiar with that, but people come here to ski, have sex, smoke, and have a good time. So, like, we try to basically stick within the fines of, say exactly, can't remember, but he basically has her get out and write a ticket for a meter that's expired.
Yeah. Well, she's mad because it's not legal to smoke it in the street.
Yeah.
But they are.
Yeah. No, they're sitting right on a park bench smoking out front. So that's when we see Nels at home in bed, but he can't sleep. So he goes out to his plow, driving to the garage where he removes the stock and the barrel from his rifle to make the gun easier to hide.
Yeah. Which I is a great element as well, that he takes the gun he was going to take his own life with, and alters it to make it a weapon of revenge.
Yeah. So Nels goes to the local bridal shop where we see him scoping out the owner, Limbo. Limbo is dealing with a client who finishes up her purchase, and that's when he asks Nels what he needs, and Nels tells him he needs a tux because he's going to renew his vows with his wife. Limbo is quick to go behind the counter and pull a pistol, but Nell catches on quickly, beating him with the rifle, and then he asks him who gave the order to kill Kyle. Limbo tells him it was about a coke deal and it was just business. And that's when he even asked him either is it L or Manning, or Elway or Manning, because that was a radio question that he had when he was driving back to town.
Oh, yeah. And
that's when he says Elway, which is the same answer that Nels gave, and that's when he kills him. And we see Jacob Ruttman, Limbo, text pop up, signifying once again that Limbo is now gone, as we watch Nels throw his body over the falls into the water below.
It won't be the last time.
It will not. So he returns home getting some food, and Grace comes out stating that she found Kyle's Facebook, and she's like, he put his favorite movies on there, his favorite music. Do you know any of those? Asking what did they talk about on hunting trips, and that's when Nels replies, hunting. And she walks off disgusted. So we cut over to Viking's residence as he's losing his shit trying to find Ryan's lost gym bag, as his ex-wife Aya reminds him that's the fourth bag he's lost. Viking reminds her that he's busy keeping the money so they can keep buying gym bags and whatever else he needs, handing her a wad of cash, telling her to buy all the goddamn gym bags that he'll ever need. And he also hands over a new strict diet for Ryan as well.
Yeah, which involves eating the same meal, which is meat, a vegetable, and some kind of nuts.
Yeah.
3 times a day, and then the next day a different meal that is also a meat, a vegetable, and a kind of nuts. 3 times a day.
And Aya's like, he's going to be miserable. He's not going to want this. But Viking tells her that gut health is very important. And she states also that her lawyer will be contacting him soon about moving Ryan's days to 10 days with her and 4 days with him. He does not take this news well. And he's like, what if I do 14 days with me and none with you?
Well, and he also mentions that when he was growing up, breakfast was half a slice of grapefruit and 3 lines of Primo Coke.
Yep.
Which, I'm guessing he was very productive.
His father called the breakfast of champions.
Well, and so I got this question for you because you saw the original.
Yeah.
Was this whole dietary thing a part of the original?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I believe it is. Because I want to say, I want to say it is, because I think he basically, the whole exchange happens in the car with the cookie.
Okay.
So it absolutely is in there. So that is when Mustang, Viking's right-hand man, tells him that Limbo is now missing, and we see Ryan watching his father go apeshit on the phone outside as Mustang sits down with the kid, even pouring him a bowl of cereal, telling him it'll be okay, and there's nothing wrong with a sweet treat every now and then, even asking him to help him with his fantasy football league.
Yeah, which due to allegiance to the Cleveland Browns, is unhelpable.
And that's when even Ryan says, I can't help you.
Yeah, well, he says, well, you have 3 Browns players. He's like, yeah, that's my home team. I gotta, loyalty's everything. And the kid's just like, can't help you.
Can't help you. So that's when Nels stalks the new guy, Santa, who is the next contact in town, following him as he has just done a coke pickup. Follows him into the mountains with his plow. Nell cuts through another path of the snow, leaving Santa to think that he's clear, but the plow then appears right in front of him. Nels gets out, goes over to his window, and he tells him that there's not enough room for him to pass, and would he mind going back to the turnoff? That's when Santa offers him a load of cash, asking him to go the other way, and Nels is like, between you and me? And he's like, yeah, between us, and that's when Nels takes his head and puts it right into the steering wheel.
Yeah, just starts bashing his head in.
So that's when some time passes. We see Nels at this point has got Santa out by the front of his plow, and that's when he's been beating him, and he goes down laying next to him, and that's when Santa's like, you tired, old man? And Nels goes, yeah, I am. And they share a laugh for about a good 30 seconds, and that's when Nels just reaches over with his rifle and blows Santa's head off.
Yep, just kablow. And his rifle, by the way, is a Winchester Model 70. which is a 30-06, I believe, a hunting rifle.
Yeah.
So it would have quite a bit of boom, although when you cut the barrel down, it reduces the velocity of the round.
That makes sense. So Nels disposes of the coke that he was carrying. So we see Nels on the road just taking a Bowie knife and cutting these bags of coke open and throwing it to the wind. And that's when he also takes his body over to the falls, disposing of it as we see the text pop up. Jeff Christensen, a.k.a. Santa.
Rip.
So Nels returns home calling to Grace, but he finds her belongings gone, all the clothes removed from her closet, and he sees a note on the bed as he goes over, opening the envelope to find an empty card inside with no writing at all. So the next morning, we see a modern home closer to town as Nels pulls up out front. He goes to the door, knocking on it as we meet Brock Coxman, his brother, played by the great William Forsythe, and he tells him about Grace leaving and Kyle's death. That's when Brock invites him in, stating he's going to make some calls to find out what happened to Kyle. Brock then tells him that Kyle and Dante got mixed up and stole some coke from Viking, Brock's former boss's son. Brock tells him Viking is a whole different breed of his father, and Nels tells him that he wants to kill him. Brock then questions how does he think he can kill anyone, where Nels then confesses he's already killed 3, adding he wrapped their bodies in chicken wire before throwing them over the falls, and he made it so that the chicken wire was so the fish could get to the bones and the bodies don't fill up with gas. That's when Nels asks him about finding Viking, but Brock tells him that you don't, and he's like, where'd you learn that chicken wire thing? And he's like, I read it in a crime novel.
That checks out.
That's when Brock tells him that this is as far as it's going to go, and Nels replies, we'll see. So at Viking's residence now, he questions how 3 of his men could go missing in such a short amount of time. Viking suspects that White Bull, a former Ute associate of his father's, displaying a medallion stating that White Bull gave it to his father the day that they shook hands, signifying that the deal was done. But now it's time to give it back to him. So Viking sends 2 men over to Kehoe airport to apprehend one of White Bull's men to send a message. That's when we see White Bull's men tied up in the trunk or in the car as they are driving to return to Denver. They rough up the man, but the man will not give anything over, which Viking suspected as he arrives with, is it coffee or green drinks for them?
I think it was green drinks.
Was it green drinks again? Okay. So that's when the man basically mouths off to Viking, basically saying that something along the lines of that he was cursed the moment that he left his mother's wretched womb.
Well, he says that his wretched blood runs through your veins.
That's it, yeah. So that's when Viking go ahead and waste no time executing Simon Regrew, who is Baby Hawk, which turns out to be White Bull's son. So Viking's men hang him on the Kehoe sign as a message, and we see officers Dash and Gipsby find the body as White Bull receives the news, adding how it was his son's first run. He was so excited to do it, and White Bull's men assemble, ready to head into Denver, and I need a second to drink.
Okay. Yeah, Dave does not like to do the show sober, so he's going to have a quick, what he calls a drinky poo, which is usually he does in the bathroom, but not this time.
Shut up.
I was just trying to help.
So that is when we see that, excuse me here, news. So White Bull receives the news, adding how it's his son's first run. White Bull's men assemble and head to Denver, and that's when Nels is seen enjoying a drink at the local bar before he goes to walk home. Officer Dash stops him, stating she's sorry for his loss, and that's when Dash joins Gipsky in the bar, as she tells him that she reached out to one of her former lovers who works in Vice, finding out that Simon is White Bull's son and how he and Viking share a territory, leading her to believe that it's now a drug turf war right here in Kehoe. She asks Gipsy what are they going to do, and Gipsky tells her that it's a job for Denver Vice. Nels then goes to see Brock as he tells him Viking's name is Trevor Calcutt, and he wants to kill him, and if he wants to kill him, he's going to have to hire a hitman, recommending the Eskimo. He tells him he needs to buy him a train ticket as he hates to fly. He'll pay him half at the pickup and half upon completion. Nels asks him about the names, and Brock informs him that he had a nickname as well because they all do in regards to the streets, and his nickname was Wingman.
Yeah, like Top Gun.
Yep.
Or like in my opinion, because Forsythe sat down and ate 100 wings in one sitting. Chicken wings.
The next day, White Bull and his men arrive at the Kehoe sign, trying to have a ceremony for Baby Hawk as Nels drives by with the plow. Sometime later, we find Nels and the Eskimo in the car being driven to a hotel, but they're not the Eskimo not a fan of the driver's music because he's playing what's the first song?
It was some kind of a country.
Stand by your
man. Yep.
Stand by your man. And that's when he's like, can you play anything else? As long as it's not Kanye. And that's when he puts on Barbie Girl.
Yeah, well, he asked for anything else and he got it.
Yep. So Nels takes the Eskimo to a motel, handing over half the money. The Eskimo then draws a gun on him, questioning if he's a cop, before telling him the new street rule is 2/3 up front and the other third when the deal is done. But cops still think it's half and half. Nels agrees to the 2/3, handing over the money to him.
I mean, Nels is not used to this.
He is not.
Clearly.
So at Viking's residence, the Eskimo goes to see the Viking, offering up info about 90 grand to ice him. Offers. God, I can't talk. The Eskimo goes to see Viking, offering him info about 90 grand to ice him that he was hired to do. Viking questions where White Bull got that kind of money, and the Eskimo tells him that it wasn't White Bull, and that's actually the information he's selling because the Native Americans don't farm out their hits. Eskimo offers who it is for another 90 grand on top of it, and Viking agrees, depositing the money into his Cayman account. That's when the Eskimo tells him that it was some guy named Coxman. Viking, hearing this, believes that it to be one that was on his father's payroll, and that's when Mustang confirms that it was a guy named Wingman, as he was on his father's payroll back in the day. The Eskimo states now that the deal is done, and that's when Viking asks him to stay for a couple questions, asking him who taught him his ethics. Since he was hired to do a job and he didn't, and that's when Viking goes on his way to say that there's ethics to one's character, telling his men to kill the Eskimo, which they do.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't trust a hitman, who can you trust?
So that's when we see Leighton Meeks, the Eskimo, is killed. Mustang and Dexter carry the body out to the car, and that's when we see Mustang and Dexter are actually secretly lovers as they kiss in the car. Nels back home is searching for information on Viking as we cut to Brock's residence as Viking and his men pull up front, telling him that they want to take a ride and speak to him.
Oh boy, I'm sure that'll be fun.
So Wingman enters the car as Viking questions, what about the Eskimo? And Wingman, who is suffering from cancer at this point, claims responsibility for the murdering of Viking's men, even giving the reason that his father stole a woman that Wingman was in love with, adding that he also flushed the 10 kilos of coke down the toilet. Wingman questions, are they done or do they want to keep talking? And that's when Viking admires his style, adding, that's how you go out strong, boys. And that's when we cut to Brock Coleman's funeral as we see the text of Wingman come up. We see Brock's wife spit on his grave and roll out with her suitcases, leaving Nels in the cemetery by himself.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a hell of a brother, to take the fall.
Yeah. So at the station, Kurt calls Dash, telling her that he got the files for her and he can send them over. White Bull arrives in Kehoe, telling his men about the deal with Viking's father was honored by the murder of his son, and now he intends to have blood for blood and a son for a son. So we see Baby Hawk's coffin is carried out. Once again, a really funny thing where they go onto the ramp of the I can't think of what it's called. What's the thing that rises?
You mean a lift gate?
The lift, yeah, the lift that they're standing on, because they stand there with the coffin as it's slanted and they're lifted up.
Oh, yeah.
So that's when back at Vikings, he sits in a tub as Aya tells him that he missed a bullying seminar. Viking quickly tells her that he bought the school all new computers, so he gets a pass as he's a businessman. And that's when she's quick to remind him he's not a businessman, he's a criminal. So Nels goes back to the cemetery before heading into Denver. We see him hiding in the woods outside Viking's house as we see Viking, Ryan, and Mustang leave for Ryan's school, spotting the school bumper sticker on the car. In Kehoe, Dash informs Gipsy about Viking's missing men, and Gipsy questions what does she think that they can do to Viking or White Bull, and she tells him that she plans to take them out.
Hopefully for a nice steak dinner.
Could be. Who knows? Meanwhile, Viking asks his men what they should do to send a message to White Bull that they are sorry, as Dexter suggests that they send an apology note, saying that they fucked up. Viking says he thinks they need something a little stronger, immediately shooting Dexter in the head, killing him as Mustang witnesses this. And we see Tycho Hamill, a.k.a. Dexter, as the title pops up. Viking states for them to cut off his head and send it to White Bull as an apology, stating that it was all Dexter's fault, but they've fixed the issue now.
And their old deal is back on.
Yep. So outside Ryan's school, we see White Bull's men watching as Aya picks up Ryan from the school. Meanwhile, back at the station, Kurt calls Dash, telling her Dante was found dead, shot up in an alley from a drug overdose, and worked with Nell's son at the airport. Dash goes on to see if Nels knew anything by going to see him at the garage, and that's when she asks him about Dante or Kyle, but Nels denies anything, and she states that she does not believe either of them were druggies and was hoping that Nels would help her out, but Nels tells her he can't, and he's got work to do. So the next day, White Bull's men prepare to grab Ryan, but are called to tell them to wait as Viking has sent a messenger to them. We see Callum Ferrete, who is Cy, arrive at White Bull's hideout, presenting Dexter's head, which is in a gift wrap box. He takes the head out, saying that they took care of the issue, that he's been punished. White Bull thanks him for the message and also admires his courage to come here alone, but reminds him that he needs a son for a son, quickly executing Sly with a shot right through the chest.
Yeah, they're sticklers for their agreements.
So White Bull's men receive the calls to grab Ryan, but Nels intercepts Ryan, lying that his mom got stuck at the dentist and his dad sent him to get him. White Bull's men watch Ryan get in the car with Nels and begin to speed off after him. Nels evades them with a quick driving as the men get caught by a school bus, and they return to tell White Bull that they lost him, but they're going to find him very soon. Sly's phone then begins to ring on his body as one of White Bull's men answers it, telling him that Sly is dead. White Bull's men assemble in 3 vehicles to head back into town to find Ryan and Nels. That's when Ryan tells Nels that he knows that he doesn't work for his father, asking him who he is, and Nels tells him that he's safe and he knows his father and that they're going to talk soon. Meanwhile, Viking is freaked out as he believes that White Bull kidnapped his son and he hasn't called, and that's when he's like, how can you not respect the etiquette when you steal somebody's son? You gotta call him. Aya arrives angry that he picked up Ryan on her week, threatening legal action. That's when he takes a swing at her, but Aya is quick to stand out of the way, grabbing his balls, causing Viking to yell to tell her that Ryan isn't here. White Bull and his men receive a text on Sly's phone from one of the men stating Steve Jobs, which is a callback to a scene when they had picked up White Bull's son. One of the men has a trick where he goes into a hotel, stands on the bed, basically naked, puts a 20 on his crotch, and has
lays
the
on the
woman
bed.
come in. Yeah. Did I say stand?
Yeah.
I meant stays on the bed, yeah.
Yeah. He claims that that's how he hooks up with hotel staff.
Yeah. So that's when they get the text that says Steve Jobs at the Sequoia Motel. The men race out there, bribing the maid as they enter the room, quickly executing Bone. Viking tries to reassure Aya he's got everything under control, but she tells him he's got 24 hours or she's calling the police. White Bull and his men head out to the hotel Chateau Montclair, and that's when the clerk tells the men that they don't have any rooms and that they need a reservation, which causes the White Bull's men to use her words against her because they're like, did you just tell us to go back to a reservation? I could destroy you on Yelp.
Yeah, they got a good sense of humor, even if they're cold-blooded killers.
So they get their rooms, and Nels brings Ryan to his home and making him eggs for dinner. Ryan questions if he lives here all alone, and Nels tells him, yep. Ryan asks if he has any kids, and Nels again tells him, Nels tells him that he does not. Ryan then comments that it wasn't very smart for Nels to bring him to his house, and Nels tells him that he wants to talk to his dad, but they're going to do so in the morning. That's when Nels puts Ryan to bed in Kyle's room, asking if he can read him a story before bed, and that's when we see Nels in bed reading Ryan a snowplow manual.
It's actually adorable, but also a little off-putting because it sounds like a legitimate commercial for a snowplow because Liam Neeson's voice is so iconic.
Yeah. So that's when Ryan at the end asks if he can take a ride in the plow tomorrow, and Nels tells him that right now he needs to go to bed, and that's when he turns off the light. Ryan then lays his head on Nels and asks if he's ever heard of Stockholm Syndrome. Back at the resort, White Bull is told by his men that they have not located Ryan yet, but they will. The hotel also presents him and his men with ski passes for the whole week. Meanwhile, the janitor from Ryan's school goes to visit Viking with information on the vehicle that took Ryan, telling him that it was a guy named Coxman, and Viking realizes that it's Wingman's brother and that he was wrong originally. He then asks janitor Chuck how much Mustang offered him, and he states 10 grand, to which he agrees to. As we see text come up saying Charles Shulman, a.k.a. Janitor Chuck.
Yep, they're cheap bastards. I mean, 10 grand's not worth it. Just kill him.
Just kill him. So back at the resort, White Bull and his men take advantage of the passes, enjoying some skiing and paragliding around the mountains. We also see Nels' men at his garage, taking a vantage point with a rifle as he calls to Viking, telling him the address to meet in Kehoe. Viking lies as we see him in the car, and he says they're still in Denver, and it'll take 3 hours as we see them pass the Kehoe sign. So they are going to his residence.
Oh, yeah, and it's going to go great.
So Nels takes Ryan out to the plow as Viking and his men arrive at Nels' residence, finding it empty. Nels runs into Gipsky and Dash on the road as he lies about Ryan being a relative, and that's when Gipsy comments that it must be nice to have family in town, commenting on all the cars that they saw at his house.
Ooh, which was a real good tip.
Yeah. So Nels and Ryan return to the garage. He tells Ryan to get someplace safe till someone can come and get him. Mustang, betraying Viking, calls White Bull, giving him the address of the garage. That's when Nels takes his post at the vantage point once more as we see Viking's men rounding the bend to the garage. Ryan comes out as Nels tells him to get back inside, hiding him in a locker. That's when Ryan questions why is he mad at him, and Nels tells him he's not mad and that he's a really good kid, but right now he needs to stay put. And he puts him in the locker, puts a tarp over the locker, hiding him. Nels takes a new vantage point in the garage as we see Viking and his men arrive as Viking steps out of the car, dead center of Nels' scope, and Nels we see is now hiding in the plow's bay as he ducks down, not taking the shot. One of his men sneak up on Nels at gunpoint, taking him out to meet Viking. That's when Viking greets Nels with a punch, asking him where is his son, stating he's a man who believes in business and he also believes in chances, but if he has to ask him again, he's going to pull out his fingernails, chop off his hands, his arms, and then slicing off his nose, which he really won't like.
Yeah, I kind of got the vibe he was saying because Neeson has a big nose.
That's what it's
That's what it came across to me as, yeah.
So Nels, seeing White Bull's men arriving, tells Viking he doesn't deserve his son. Shots start to ring out in every direction as White Bull's men pull into the garage lot. Viking and his men take cover, as does Nels, as a firefight breaks out between. We're seeing various men get shot on both sides, shot over the hill, shot in the foot, and they're killed as Nels hides under a vehicle. White Bull himself eventually gets out of the car, opening fire on Viking, who is now trying to take cover as well. Nels, getting into his plow, rams White Bull's Hummer into another car, causing an explosion. Getting into another machine, Nels watches as Viking gets into a car, but before he can do so or go anywhere, Nels takes a large tree stump with the machine, shoving it through the car, stopping him dead.
Yeah, he basically pierces right through the car.
Yeah. So a shot goes through the windshield as we see White Bull shoot and hit Viking in the chest. Nels looks into the car, confirming that Viking is injured and most likely going to die, before getting back into his plow and driving off. The door opens as he's down the road a bit, and White Bull steps in with a pistol, holding it on Nels as he climbs into the seat sitting next to him. Later, Officer Dash and Gipsky arrive on the scene as Dash is just overwhelmed by the carnage that she's seeing, and that's when we also see that Ryan gets out of his locker with the ear protection still on and gets into the snowblower, driving it towards town as Dash reports it.
Yeah, the way kids driving the snowplow.
Yeah. So Gipsky finds Viking, who tries to insult his ex one more time, but he dies choking on his blood. Nels gets to the main road, getting out as White Bull is asking him, what are you doing? And Nels states, my job. Getting out to open the barrier as White Bull watches. Nels gets back into the plow and starts clearing the road for the drivers behind him. Sensing no danger, White Bull puts his pistol on the dash as he and Nels just sit and cruise the roads watching the sun come up. White Bull eventually falls asleep but wakes back up to see his man from earlier paragliding around the mountains. The wind takes him, sending him right under Nels' plow, killing him as remains and parachute begin to shoot out the side of the plow. And that, my friends, is 2019's Cold Pursuit.
A very strange little touch at the end, but fair enough.
Pretty sure that's exactly how the original ends, too.
I don't doubt it. Those Norwegians are not to be trusted.
So would you like to know some interesting things about Cold Pursuit?
If they're interesting, go for it.
What do you think the budget was of this film?
I mean, it's got to be high.
Mm-hmm.
Neeson was a really big name. So like 90 million?
60.
60.
Estimated $60 million.
Okay, wow.
Opening weekend is February 10th of 2019. It takes in $11 million. Grossing in US and Canada, $32 million. Worldwide, grossing $76 million.
So not much of a hit.
Not a huge hit, no.
Well, not a hit really at all, unfortunately.
Principal photography began in March of 2017 in Alberta, Canada. Filming also took place in Vancouver and Fernie, British Columbia, and around Winnipeg and Gimli, Manitoba. While Moland had hoped to shoot in Banff and Jasper National Parks, the permit was denied by Parks Canada, which cited concerns about the film's environmental impact and over the depiction of the First Nations gangsters led by Tom Jackson's character. Jackson provided a letter in support of the project, but they still could not get approval.
Ah, well, there you go.
Filmed in March of 2017, but not released until February 2019. The movie was moved to Fortress Mountain in Alberta and then on to Cranbrook, Fernie, and Vancouver, British Columbia for filming. Body count in the film is 25.
It almost feels like more.
Same. That's what I was thinking. Michael Richardson, a.k.a. Michael Neeson, who is Neeson's real-life son, auditioned for the role of Coxman's son after encouragement from his father after finishing the script. Richardson found working with his father on the film to be very organic and enjoyable, as in the past it had not felt that way to him, as he just felt like the star's son getting a part.
Oh, wow.
Moland, who directed the original film in Order of Disappearance, told his cast before filming that they were welcome to watch the original film for inspiration, but to keep in mind that the macabre humor would be increased for the remake versus the original film, as he wanted to challenge the tone for the audience.
Okay.
Tom Jackson agreed to the part of White Bull without having finished the script. He even stated that he didn't read the complete script in regards to his character or the story's outcome until they were shooting the film.
Wow. Okay.
In early 2017, the film was refused a permit to shoot in Banff National Park. I already read that. Never mind. One of the characters in the movie makes fun of the sexual nature of Nels Coxman's name. In the original Norwegian film, of which this is a remake, the main character is called Nils Dickman. Emmy Rossum was quoted as saying Liam was annoyingly professional, caring about the little people on set. He approached his work with ease and naturalism that is very inspiring to be around, even able to come in and out of character within seconds, and has an organic craft, making doing scenes with him very fun.
He's from the British school.
Yeah.
They just turn it on and off.
Tom Bateman, who portrays Viking in the film, was asked to step up his performance by the director, as originally he thought he wasn't playing the character evil enough. Hans encouraged Bateman to really go all out with his character, to where the audience would see that this villain is truly evil, but enjoys being evil and has fun with it. Bateman was later quoted saying that Viking's true vile spirit and actions made for a great playoff of Neeson's solemnness in his portrayal of Coxman. Bateman based his performance off in a special he saw about a gentleman who was a professional at firing people and took great joy in doing so, taking that into the role to be as crazy as he could be, but also finding vulnerability in his comedy. Bateman found his toughest scenes to be with Julia Jones, who portrays his wife in the film, as Julia would have to be refrained and nice while dealing with the reprehensible character she has a child with, and Bateman would often question if he was going too far on her because she was so nice, but Julia encouraged him to be as rough with her as she could.
Well, I mean, she's a pro.
Yeah. So what are your final thoughts on 2019's Cold Pursuit?
I mean, it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly deep. It's not just a popcorn movie, although it fills those checks those boxes as well.
Quite nicely, yes.
I enjoy the hell of it. I think it's definitely worth a rent, at the very least. There's nothing to not like about this movie.
No, it's a rent it for me as well, with a caveat to buy it if you do enjoy it, because the physical releases are great. But this movie is, like I said earlier, a great trade-off from Neeson's normal you don't know who you're fucking with kind of character. Yeah. And you also just have a great time learning about who these characters are, even if most of them do die by the end. It's still an absolute blast.
The world building is really fun in it.
So much fun. So that is my final thoughts as well on it. We always like to end the show with a couple of recommendations. This week I've got two. 2018's Peppermint, which is currently on Plex, Fandango, and Prime. 5 years after her husband and daughter are killed in a senseless act of violence, a woman comes back from self-imposed exile to seek revenge against those responsible and the system that let them go free. I actually really like Peppermint.
I like Peppermint. I think it didn't get the attention it deserved.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, it's a lot of fun and also really cool to see Garner back and playing an action role. Second recommendation, 2013's Whitewash on Peacock, Pluto, and Tubi currently. A snowplow driver who, after accidentally killing a man, attempts to escape the cops by fleeing into the harsh Canadian wilderness.
I love Whitewash. I'm pretty sure I told you about Whitewash. Yeah. That was I want to say that was during the winter of 2021, or like January 2021.
Yeah.
When we were all still like vaguely locked down-ish.
You definitely recommended it to me during COVID. I know that.
And I was on the hunt for the most snowy movies I could find, and I discovered a bunch of new ones. To me, one was Whitewash, then Dead of Winter, which we've done on the show.
Yes, we have.
I discovered a bunch of really interesting ones, but that one really, really stood out to me. It's very fascinating how it unravels.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much it can hold your attention, considering so much of the movie is the guy sitting alone in a buried vehicle.
Yeah, Thomas Hayden Church is so freaking good in that movie. Cannot recommend that enough.
Yeah, really, really good one.
Do you have any recommendations this week?
I do. I wanted to go the opposite way and go with a movie that is what you might have thought Cold Pursuit was if you had a negative opinion. So I'm going with 2021's The Ice Road.
Ah, yes,
the Netflix movie with Liam Neeson, which is a ridiculous snow action movie.
Yeah.
Like super ridiculous.
If you're not hooked by the first 5 minutes of that movie, it's not for you.
Oh, it's great. It's a lot. It's still good, but it's a lot dumber.
Yeah.
It's just a silly action thing. After a remote diamond mine collapses in far northern Canada, a big rig ice road driver must lead an impossible rescue mission over a frozen lake to save the trapped miners.
But there might be more to it.
There's a lot more to it. It never stops getting more complicated until pretty much the bitter end.
Very end. Yeah.
But I think that one would be a great companion piece, and even though there's a lot of dark humor in Cold Pursuit, this one would be a good palate cleanser for afterward, because it's a lot looser, a lot lighter in many ways.
No, it absolutely is. I completely forgot about that movie. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
So that is what we got this week. Do we have any emails this week?
You know what? I think we might.
Oh, snap.
If I remember correctly, we had one. So this one is from our good buddy at Bobbletopia.com.
Oh, awesome.
Good friends and a supporter of Weekly Spooky.
Very cool.
You can go to Bobbletopia.com for all your bobblehead needs. They did actually send us the bobbleheads on our set. There's a Freddy Krueger and an Orville and Wilbur Wright that they sent in because they respect the Daytonianness.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Orville and Wilbur, they actually manufactured that one. So they do wholesale bobbleheads, but they also do, they've made their own. And I guess that was one of the first ones they did.
That's awesome.
So really, really cool. But Madan, I believe I'm saying Madan right, over at Bobbletopia. But he says, hey guys, wanted to share a book I'm reading, Cinema Speculation by Quentin Tarantino.
Yep.
I'm a quarter through it, but it's safe to say this is a neat book for movie aficionados. If either of you have not read it, I'd suggest it, and it'd be a neat recommendation for the podcast listeners too. All my best, Madan.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got that on my shelf. I think I actually have it in my stack for this year, so I'm gonna be getting into that soon.
I have it on my bookshelf as well. I've only skimmed it. I haven't had a chance to really sit down with it, but I've heard it's a phenomenal book.
No, it's a lot of fun from what I've heard. I think Matt read it, if I remember correctly, and he said he had a blast with it because it's basically just Tarantino talking about 10 movies that he's selected.
Nice.
So it should be a lot of fun. Would you like to know what we're talking about next week on the show, even though we've already said it before?
When you put it that way, let's just shut it all off.
We are still continuing Cold-Blooded January, but we're going to move into a little hotter state as we go to Texas for 1985's Confessions of a Serial Killer.
Yeah, a movie that is cold-blooded in the figurative sense.
Yeah.
Deeply figurative sense. One of my all-time favorites, a movie I've been espousing positively about for almost 2 decades now.
Yeah.
A movie I rented on tape from Hollywood Video.
One that you compared Paul Blart as basically being the predecessor. You basically said that Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer was Paul Blart as Confessions of a Serial Killer is Observe and Report.
Yes, and I think that's still a phenomenal
No, it
statement.
absolutely is.
And nobody's gotten angry with me and commented that that was a horrible statement.
Pretty
so
solid.
That must mean everyone agrees with me.
Confessions, unfortunately, is not streaming for free anywhere right now.
It left Tubi?
No, it is not. It is not anywhere according to what I looked at earlier.
Oh,
but
damn.
It is currently available on Prime and Fandango to rent or buy.
It was on Tubi briefly.
I didn't see it on there.
I'm surprised.
I'm hoping it. I mean, if it is, that'd be awesome. But it didn't say it on any
It
listings.
might not be there anymore.
Let's find out.
I don't think it is.
Is that it?
That looks like a totally different film.
Well, the one next to it
Oh.
also looks like a completely different.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that's it. Nope.
Nope.
Darn, yeah. Too bad, because it was on there briefly.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely worth a rent if you love movies, if you loved Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. It's a phenomenal companion piece. A film where they changed all the names, yet oddly enough, it's much more accurate in depicting the crimes of Henry Lee Lucas, at least the way he said they went, which, he was known for being a liar.
Yeah. Well, and also you're going to have some very cool stories about Robert Burns next week.
I
on this
do.
episode,
The lead actor and a famous, very famous production designer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a good one to run through.
We also recently saw appear in a short film for the same guy that directed Scary Movie.
Yeah, that was a fun surprise.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Robert Burns was a Texas native.
Yeah.
So his first film, I believe, was Texas Chainsaw. So, but yeah, that'll be next week.
Yes, it will, as we wrap up Cold-Blooded January as we get a little spicy and hot.
Yeah. Although probably not. This is apparently one of our coldest winters in a little while.
Yeah,
After we had 2 or 3 pretty mild ones.
As we're recording this, I think it's 17 degrees outside right now.
Actually, I bet it's colder.
Probably colder now,
by now, because tonight the low is 3.
Yeah, low is 3 tonight.
Yeah, it's the coldest of the week because I think that what happened was when I had to cancel my vacation, Michigan decided to just come to me. Yeah, it's 9 degrees outside right now.
Damn.
Yeah, single digits, baby.
Oh, fun.
So,
can't wait to get that here.
So everybody who's listening to this, you stay warm. If you want to email us, you can do so at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. You can also go to doyouevenmovie.com for all the pertinent information, or leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. We would really appreciate it, and subscribe or whatever. That's cool too.
That would be awesome.
All right, well, guys, until next time, make sure your roads are properly plowed.
Yes.
And don't kill somebody, because you just don't know who their father might really be on the inside.
This is very true.
And we will see you next Tuesday.